And I think this is one of the great things about this event, is that we're going to be listening to business archivists talking about demonstrating value in business archives. But I mean, some of the things that we're going to hear about have wide applicability to anyone who's running an archive service or involved in archives. So I think it's a good opportunity for people from across the sector to learn, and share, for business archivists to share some of the stuff that they're doing around demonstrating impact. I mean, obviously, if this event had gone ahead in March and COVID had never happened, if we can imagine a parallel universe such as that, then we would have been hearing about the sort of impact that business archives can have and how that's demonstrated, whether it's in terms of academic impact or whether it's in terms of products and advertising and corporate social responsibility, and sort of perhaps, let's say, in reach in terms of how business archives are used in the business. We would have been hearing about all of that, and we're going to hear about that today as well. But clearly, COVID has changed the situation somewhat as well, and I do know that quite a few business archives have actually been doing a lot more work in terms of internal communications initiatives and well-being initiatives, and actually trying to keep particularly businesses where a large proportion of the workforce are at home. Then I know that business archives have been contributing in quite a few ways to sort of maintaining cohesion within businesses, and a lot of benefits in terms of as I say, sort of well-being and keeping colleagues connected. And that was probably something that we wouldn't have thought so much about, if we'd gone ahead in March and COVID had never happened. But it has, and here we are. So we've got some excellent speakers from some, excellent business archives. So we're going to hear from Marks and Spencer's, GSK, and HSBC. And I hope that we're going to have some interesting debates via the chat function. And as Georgie says, we've got the opportunity for the breakout area, so you can get to talk to some of your some colleagues as well. But above all, I hope that you'll actually pick up some ideas that you can use in your own workplace and in your own situations. But above all, I hope you have a sort of stimulating and enjoyable afternoon. So first up, I'm delighted to welcome Katharine, who's the archivist at the Marks and Spencer's archive in Leeds. I don't know if you've been into the archive recently, Katharine, but anyway, it's great to see you. And so Katharine's going to talk for about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll go into the first breakout area. So over to you, Katharine. Thanks very much.
I'm hoping everybody can now see my screen.
We can.
Marvellous. Right, so I am from the Marks and Spencer Archive, as Mike said, and I've been asked to talk about a specific project that we ran some time ago now. We are the Business Archive of Marks and Spencer PLC, but we also have a specific remit to promote the widest possible access to and learning from M&S's archive heritage. So I'm just having problems with my other screen. Sorry about that. The archive is full of objects that can help to inspire conversation and spark memories. And over the last few years, we've focused on supporting people with dementia. Everything we do is funded by our governing body, the M&S Company Archive Community Interest Company, and is free at the point of access for whoever is taking part. We offer memory boxes containing original objects, garments and accessories that can go around to care homes and community groups. We send them through the post and we pay all of the postage charges for those. And it's for groups to run their own reminiscence sessions. We offer outreach visits going into care homes, obviously not at the moment, in the Leeds area, delivering reminiscence sessions using archive items. We offer tailored group visits for groups with additional needs. We give guided tours of the exhibition and everything is tailored to their requirements. As part of our business as usual, business normal offer, we have a monthly memory cafe with an emphasis on learning new skills and socialising. And we also provide archive reminiscence resources to M&S colleagues in other parts of the country who are involved with supporting dementia groups wherever they're based. We also run 1 or 2 projects a year where we have the opportunity to work more in depth and longer term with the same group of participants. And it gives people the chance to explore the collection in more detail, produce creative archive inspired work, break the routine of care setting and to meet new people. And previous projects have included creative reminiscence, looking at fashion and food in the collection, and producing new creative work, and an intergenerational project which brought together social care students at the beginning of their career and older people with dementia. The projects generally culminate with a small exhibition at our venue and a celebratory event for project participants, their carers and families. The project I've been asked to talk about today is Stories from M&S Sheet Music, which was the result of strategic partnerships with the University of Leeds and Leeds International Piano Competition. And those partnerships have been developed over several years. With the piano competition, which takes place in Leeds and is quite a prestigious event, the partnership began simply as us advertising our archive exhibition in their programme for their audiences at the piano recitals. Sheet music was a bestseller at M&S at the start of the 20th century, but we hadn't previously used our sheet music collection for outreach. Our reminiscence work tends to focus on slightly later material to be more relevant to the ages of the majority of the participants. But working with the piano competition team gave us the expertise to explore the collection further. And we wanted to provide outreach projects based on more than just the idea of remember when. We wanted to give people the opportunity to learn and try new things. And the collaborative project fit with the piano competition's remit to champion piano music to as wide an audience as possible. And we supported the piano competition in their successful bid for £7,100 of funding from the National Lottery Heritage Fund under the Sharing Heritage programme. We worked with a group of people from Leeds Council's Complex Needs Day Centres for people with dementia. We'd previously worked with the centres and done outreach sessions, and we knew that they tend to host people with varying symptoms of dementia. And we thought it would be a really worthwhile project to run, knowing there'd be varied and interesting outcomes and giving participants the opportunity to socialise and learn, as well as to offer peer support. We've created a short film to give an overview of the project. And at this point, Georgie's going to take control again to be able to share the film due to IT issues at my end.
Sheet music was a bestseller at Marks and Spencer in the early 20th century, and we have a huge collection of it here at the archive now. We're working with Leeds International Piano Competition to help a group of people with dementia to explore this collection of sheet music. Over 8 weeks, the group will listen to recordings of the piano music, and then with the help of writer Sarah Perry, they'll curate a recital, and they'll put together some programme notes to help others to interpret the music as well.
Every session we look at some objects from the archive and we listen to some sheet music, and then we do a creative activity, and that activity can be anything. You know, we've done painting, we've done letter writing, we've written a story together as a group, but ultimately what we're aiming to do is explore a theme. So each week's had a theme, sometimes romance, dancing, celebration, food, family, all of these different things. The idea is that the participants have space to tell us about themselves, to remember things, to tell us their take on that theme, what it means to them, or to use their imagination.
What's been fantastic when we've listened to the music in the sessions is to see the different responses from people, and we know from the way that people are interacting how much they're enjoying the opportunity to explore something new and hear some new music.
Nice, jolly, bright music, loud music. It lifts you. It lifts you. The mood is absolutely amazing. We sing along, gets everybody's feet tapping, and it carries on when we get back to our centre.
As well as the weekly sessions, we're putting together a set of specially curated performances that will go into care homes around Leeds.
So all the work that the group have done will get put together in programme notes. These will be added to an online resource which can be used by any community group or care home to run similar sessions themselves.
It's making our job easier. It works. It gets everybody chatting, everybody.
We really believe in the power of music, and we think that music should be inspiring and interesting for all audiences that come across it, and it's a chance for people to carry on learning new things, carry on meeting new people, carry on having a really creative outcome and activity within their lives. As well as that, there'll be an exhibition that's open to the public right here at M&S. There'll be a piano that you can come and play on. You can check out the sheet music yourself, and you can listen to some of the recordings too.
The project will culminate in a temporary exhibition here at the M&S Archive, so all the participants will have the chance to see their work on display, which is always a really great thing to do.
The other great thing you'll be able to see during that exhibition is the creative responses from this group that have worked with us on a weekly basis, so you can read the poems they've put together, the stories they've written together, and definitely some great artwork as well.
Georgie, can you just check, am I back on my screen now for everybody?
Not. I can't see the screen sharing. Or can anyone else?
Right, just give me a second.
That's all right. All good.
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Seamless. The partners began planning for the legacy of the project right from the beginning, and as a key part of our community outreach programme for the year, we were really keen to maximise the added value that the project would give to the archive. The project had to have a lasting legacy and to reach a wider audience than the 20 or so core participants. We can often find with our community work that it's about the challenge of the quality and depth of experience that we can offer to a very small group of participants, balanced against the desire to reach and engage a much larger audience. From a collections perspective, our sheet music has previously only been displayed visually, and this project enabled us to create high quality recordings so that audiences can continue to experience the music as it was intended to be shared. We produced a resource pack, a couple of images here, and made the music recordings available online free of charge. The resource pack includes information about the music, lyrics, contextual archive images, and a range of activities allowing anyone to deliver a Stories from M&S sheet music session in their own care environment. The creation of resources that can continue to be used in that way and be made available to support people with dementia across the UK was really important to us. Artwork produced by the group went on display in the archive's temporary exhibition space, and comments, stories and creative outputs by the group helped interpret the music and archive objects for other visitors. The exhibition also invites visitors to play their own tunes on the piano that was installed as part of the exhibition and listen to the sheet music recordings. The project adopted several methods to try to measure the impact of everything that we were doing. Evaluation with the participants, monitoring our website activity and downloads, and monitoring the PR reach of anything that we put out about the project. And as part of the lottery funded project, an independent evaluation practitioner was engaged, delivering 2 strands of project evaluation: session observations, and there's an example of an observation sheet here, taken by the archive outreach officer, the creative practitioners involved in the sessions, and other staff and carers. And it also included case studies with 2 of the project participants, 1 carer and 1 support worker from the care setting. The evaluation focused on capturing participants' engagement with activities, their scope of learning and understanding of the session content, and recording their personal and social interactions. Monitoring traffic to our website and downloads of the digital resources was pretty straightforward. While in terms of the PR evaluation, we're lucky as being part of the business to have support from M&S's PR agency, which monitors media coverage and online and social media activity for us, using the PR industry standard mechanism of measuring the reach in terms of opportunities to see. That is the typical readership or viewing audience for each place where an editorial feature about our project has appeared. And it's then translated into a financial value on the basis of what it would cost M&S to pay for an equivalent amount of advertising to reach the same audience. So having tried to measure the impact, it means we've been able to try and demonstrate the impact of the project. And we'll start with the participants, given that the entire project was designed to have a positive difference for them. The independent evaluation confirmed that the participants had gained quite a lot. Their mood was lifted during the sessions and also for the rest of the day that the session had taken place. And then once back at the day centre, participants continued to talk about their visit. Verbal communication increased between participants and between participants and the caregivers. And the hands-on activities helped to develop or maintain hand-eye coordination. The evaluation also found that participants expressed real pride in their creative work, especially seeing it all come together in the exhibition at the archive, and it made them feel more confident about trying other new things. In terms of the ongoing impact, we know that carers have downloaded piano apps onto iPads so that members of groups can enjoy playing tunes. And we currently have a list of 34 care homes waiting to arrange group visits to the archive when it's safe to do so. I think, you know, it's perceived as a trusted organisation, and as soon as it's safe, we'll be welcoming groups. One of the things that we didn't and couldn't have anticipated pre-pandemic is that care settings around the country have hugely valued being able to download a resource completely safe because it's digital at a time when activity coordinators in care of what they can access. Even things like physical handling boxes of reminiscence materials have had restrictions on them. So it's been a really important resource to people at a time when very little else has been available. For the archive, it's been really great to see increased use of part of the collection that had been greatly underused before. And not just for the project itself, but follow-on inquiries from people wanting to know more about the sheet music. And the project did culminate in a really striking, engaging display, which enhanced our permanent exhibition offer. We do feel it's been one of the most successful community projects we've done so far in terms of trying to balance the quality with the reach of the engagement experience. So for the people really involved in the sessions, it was very in-depth, but the fact that the resources are available further afield helps really extend the reach of what we've done. Albeit at a more superficial extent if you haven't taken part in the whole project. The success of the project has been shared within M&S as a demonstration of the value of building long-term cultural relationships and partnerships. And it's been a great way to show the impact that the archive can have on communities across the UK, despite limitations due to geography and the size of our team. We're a team of 4 FTE. I'd also like to highlight that for the learning and development of our team, working with people from other organisations gave us skills and experience that it would have been very difficult for us to gain in other ways, as well as new ideas for the future. For M&S PLC, monitoring the downloads and the PR and social media activity meant we include this as positive brand PR and community goodwill that the archive generates for M&S. It's included in the archive's KPIs, and it demonstrates the added value, along with archive-inspired product, that the archive creates for our parent organisation. The project has been shared within M&S as a demonstration of the value of building long-term relationships, and a great way to show the impact we can have despite some of our constraints. It's also helped demonstrate the relevance of the archive in supporting the corporate priorities of M&S. We introduced this strand of community work at a time when M&S was rolling out dementia awareness training across all store teams. I've included governance model on the previous slide as well as on this one as part of the impact for the archive, but also the wider business. The project has demonstrated to M&S PLC that the archive has a very effective funding and governance model, one that enables us to work with partners to unlock external funding for community-focused activity. The notion that each pound invested in community activity by M&S helps to generate or unlock an additional £6 for the benefits of the community. So thank you for listening, if you're still out there. I hope it's been of some interest, and there'll be an opportunity for any follow-on questions later. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Katharine. I think that's a really excellent case study, which I think highlights a few issues about well, the importance of being able to measure impact as well. It's quite unusual to have case studies like that where, you know, you've got actually quite sort of concrete evaluation processes in place, and that's often really hard. As I think people know throughout the archive sector, it's really hard to sort of often measure that or put it into numbers that people can relate to. And also, I think it's interesting that I guess people stereotypically might have thought that, you know, the M&S company archive was all going to be about sort of I don't know, retro products and advertising, and that is something that probably no one could possibly have imagined that the M&S archive would have been doing. But it would probably never even thought that you had sheet music, but let alone that you would then use it for you know, in the sort of dementia field. I think that's a sort of really it's a really good example. And I mean, as some of you will know, the Boots archive has done a similar work on with dementia as well. So there's a lot of opportunity for business archives there, but probably archives more generally as well, because people well, yeah, people relate to their past in a great way. Okay, so now, I don't know how we. I don't know how we all thank Katharine. We probably just sort of say, "I'll give it an applause" or something. Yeah, well, I can see lots of people clapping. Okay, so next up, having been forewarned by Georgie, next up we've got Jill from the GSK archive, who no doubt will also be referencing Bill from St Helens archive and the work that they've been doing together. So without further ado, let's hand over to Jill. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mike. So this is going to be great fun. It was supposed to be 2 parts, with me doing a bit and Bill doing a bit, and we've got the slides between us. But now I'm going to be everyone all at the same time. So hopefully it won't be too confusing. Oh, can you give me screen sharing back?
You should have it now.
Should be.
Yeah.
Coming there. Okay, so Bill is the archives manager at St Helens Archive Service. They're between Manchester and Liverpool, for those of you outside of the UK. They are a local council archive, and they have the town collections as well as several business collections with them. And I am Jill Moretto. I'm the Information Governance and Heritage Archive Manager for GSK. We are a global pharmaceuticals company. So I look after the global archive collections, and I lead our departmental information governance program. And together, we're going to tell you about the partnership that we have together and the impact it's had on the respective communities that we support. And nearly every slide that you'll see showcases the product of our partnership. So GSK is a little bit over 300 years old in our oldest branch, which is at the top left on that family tree diagram. We primarily talk about our big four predecessors, Glaxo, Wellcome, Beecham, and SmithKline. Each developed their own archives and had archivists join during the 20th century. And ultimately, they all came together in 2000 with the formation of GSK as we are today. And I've been looking after the archives since 2013. So today we're going to focus on the top right-hand corner, which is that kind of ugly square of the family tree, the former Beecham side. So Thomas Beecham, he was a single farmer. He started hand-rolling laxative pills in the 1840s. And by the end of the 19th century, they were a global giant with the St Helens factory and offices at its centre from the mid-1880s. By 1894, they were producing about 6 million boxes of pills annually, which is approximately 330 million pills across the year. And by only 6 years later, they'd increased the production through the improvement of the mechanical factory machines to about 55,000 pills a day. By the late 19th century, Beecham was one of the world's most prolific advertisers, with local language adverts in 7,000 newspapers across the world. And their annual advertising budget was approximately £120,000. In today's money, that would be about £10 million. And apparently, today's Beecham cold and flu pills budget is far, far less. Across the 20th century, as time progressed and the brand grew, we acquired other companies, we expanded to produce other products. And eventually, in 1989, they merged with SmithKline. And as part of the post-merger, there was a global review of all of the sites and subsidiaries, and that led to the proposed closure of the St Helens factory. So the St Helens Archive Service is based in the historic Gamble building in the heart of the town centre. They have a diverse collection, which is an unparalleled resource for the study of the locality. Some records are of regional and national significance, including the records relating to Sir Thomas Beecham, the conductor, and the historic corporate archive of Beecham's Pills Empire. Other business archive related items they have, including some papers of the Gamble family, so the part of the Procter and Gamble company, including correspondence and conveyancing agreements. And the archive also contains various records of national and local businesses. Pilkington Glass are also one of the major companies in St Helens. The Beecham collection is one of their most prized collections though, and within the archive it's quite unique, and it has a lot of affection, the company and the collection that remains there within the local borough. The Beecham's factory and office building on the screen at the moment were built between 1884 and 1887, and the company was famous for producing the well-known Beecham's Pills. It was a major employer in the town, and the factory continued to produce pharmaceutical and consumer products after they merged with SmithKline in 1989. However, as part of that post-merger review, the factory was determined that it was going to be closed in 1994. And that's when St Helens Archive Service were contacted by the manager of the site with a view to depositing the archival collections that sat within the building into the local archive. So that was an extent. What they currently have is 1,289 items, 259 files, 127 volumes, 79 bundles, and 2 boxes. So it's quite a volume of material that was stored. So in 2016, I had asked our facilities team to revamp our archive stores at GSK with rolling racks, proper storage, and some display areas for us. And I had this mad idea to recatalogue the entire collection to 21st century standards and to match it with our American collection, so it was all under the same hierarchical schema. And as part of that, I had a bit of a look around on the internet to see what other archives around the UK or indeed the rest of the world held elements of GSK heritage, and discovered that the St Helens Calmview had the St Helens factory and some of the Beecham's Pills business records. So myself, my manager at the time, sent a nice casual email to Bill saying something along the lines of, hey, you've got our stuff, can we do something about that, please? Thinking that we might do something similar to what we had done with the History of Advertising Trust. So they had been looking after 216 Beecham advertising guard books for us that we transferred back into our collections, and we've had fully digitized, so they're fully searchable, usable, and nicely preserved. But there was radio silence from Bill's side. So on Bill's side, they had discovered that letters of transfer existed from the collection when it was deposited, but there was no real clarity over who actually owned it. So Jill contacted me to discuss the collection with the possibility of it being transferred from the borough back to GSK. And although we had a pleasant conversation, I was concerned that a decision could be made to remove the collection from the archive, and therefore they contacted their TNA development officer for her view on the situation and her thoughts of how we could come to a satisfactory resolution for both St Helens and GSK. And they discussed the history of the company in the borough and the warmth and affection within the local community. So then the business sector development officer contacted me and my manager at the time to discuss how we could reach some sort of compromise, whether there was anything that could be done. And so then both Bill and I kept in contact throughout the discussions, and we're pleased to say we agreed we would formally deposit the collection with St Helens, and we have subsequently signed all of the appropriate forms. But we were very conscious that we don't want to be depriving St Helens of this collection that they have such affection for, and St Helens have been looking after it and conserving it for the town and then the local community for such a long time already. So instead, we went for a visit up to St Helens to have a look at some of the collections and to propose how we could have some access and have some sharing of the material. And of course, we apologised for having caused all sorts of worry and panic about potentially stealing the collection. And there was no problems on the Northern Rail that day. So we had a meeting, we talked through some options. Firstly, we signed the forms, and somehow no one had done it in the 90s. And then GSK's secretariat had studiously ignored any and all letters that they subsequently received about it in the early 2000s. So we've done the legal bit. So we decided between us that digitizing some of the items from within the Beecham's Pills collection in St Helens and some of the items that we have in GSK's selections, we would get the results of both sides of the digitization. So everything that St Helens has, we have, and vice versa. So it's a great idea. We decided we would have a look at some of the collections in the storeroom. So they sent us out for lunch while the wonderful St Helens staff pulled out some records, or rather many boxes of records for us to have a look at during the afternoon. So as a result, both collections now have a huge volume of digital material that we can pull on. On GSK's side, it fills a gap that we have with our consumer business. So it is much easier for us to share externally to the outside world anything that is a consumer product, because the regulations surrounding it are far looser than they are for our pharmaceutical or vaccine side, where it is very tightly regulated, and I can't even tell you the name, the trademark name of one of our products without having to give you all sorts of circumvented rules and regulations. So consumer, because it's far easier for us, and people are also far more likely to recognize the brand names. They've grown up with these products. They've grown up with the Beecham's Pills, or although we've sold it now, Lucozade. So this has resulted in this fantastic collection of digitized images that we've been able to use to support heritage in the St Helens borough. And we have some examples of these. So here, St Helens Libraries and Archives, they have a strong commitment to engaging with local schools and teaching them some of the heritage of the local area. So they have created a number of class visits around the heritage, and with the digitalization, they have this class visit based on the Beecham's company and its important role in how the borough has developed. And it's been very popular. And in the 6 months before the first lockdown, it was delivered to 164 children across the borough. And they are continuing to use the collection to support their online digital offering. So here on the right is the video they created for the 200th anniversary of the birth of Thomas Beecham in December, and a little over 6,000 people have already viewed that. And for GSK, we have been using it on the both internal and external channels. So externally, we work with our communications team and support their posts on Twitter and the various social media channels that we use. Looking at some of our social media stats, heritage posts have gathered far more engagement than regular corporate postings during 2018-19, which is great fun, but it sort of takes away from the corporate message that they're supposed to be getting out there. On the internal side, we launched our heritage website. So there's a big picture in the middle here. It includes stories from our past. So that was launched coming up on 2 years ago now. And the way it's designed means we can showcase our imagery really easily, and it has this real focus. So you can see we've got this huge Scots emulsion banner across the top of the page for the product history. We also have an internal Facebook, which is called Facebook Workplace, where we have a heritage group where we can share all of these images, videos, did you knows, and all sorts of things. So the image on the right there is the Beecham's fat cats who need Beecham's pills after the hippie, and we use that to celebrate the anniversary of Cats the Musical opening on Broadway, and subsequently also for Thanksgiving for our American colleagues. So in conclusion, talk to your sector development managers. They are lovely, they are there to help you, and they know all sorts of things that would never occur to you, and they can clarify any confusions you might get yourself into with potential partners. It allows you to open up a dialogue with other services that then can share records with you. They might know things you don't, have things you don't, be willing to open up their doors and pull hundreds of boxes off shelves for you, and they might even tell you where the best sandwich shop in the town is. But neither of us could have done this without the other, so that's Bill and myself, and the collections we have, and indeed the sector development team. So make sure you're open and willing to new ideas. You don't know what sort of impact it might have on yourself, your collections, and the wider communities that you ultimately support. And that's me.
Thank you.
Slightly different to what was expected, but whether the message came across.
Okay, thanks very much, Jill, and thanks for stepping in and giving 2 presentations in one as well. Much appreciated. I mean, I think yeah, it sort of demonstrates the importance of partnerships, and actually, you know, it's quite hard to really demonstrate impact on your own. Often you do need to get other people involved. And a great plug for Georgie and Philippa, who are the sector development managers as well. No doubt they'll appreciate that. And also, I'm not quite sure this has anything to do with impact, but I suppose it's in some sense, because it shows that the value of archives to local communities. And I mean, in some sense, that was almost an example of a displaced archive, which could have been sort of plucked away from St Helens and taken to a, you know, central repository somewhere. And in fact, it ends up staying in the community, and that, you know, that just shows that, you know, local businesses have very strong roots in communities, and you know, it's actually important that, you know, the archives are sort of, you know, retained and promoted in the areas where they're actually located. So you know, I think that was a really good example, and I mean, it's quite a common problem for for business archives, particularly where they've got the sort of multinational aspects to them, which obviously GSK has.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm right. Well, so we'll have an applause for Jill, everyone.
Thank you.
We're all clapping. Thank you. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I think we're still just about to timetable, aren't we, Georgie? So yeah. Okay, so finally, we've got Helen from HSBC Archives. So Helen, are you there?
I am, yes. I will
Excellent. Right.
attempt to share my screen. Hopefully you can all see a big slide deck now. Okay, well, thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm Helen. I'm one of the archivists at HSBC Archives. So for this session, I just wanted to really briefly introduce you to HSBC Archives and what we do as a global team. And then I really wanted to focus on a unique project that I've been really lucky to be part of over the last couple of years now, which was the creation of a digital war memorial for the UK Bank and a related ongoing volunteer programme, which has been really interesting to be involved in, and it's been a really good way for us to demonstrate the value of the archives team and the impact that our collections can have. So HSBC Archives itself is a global department, so we have a team that works across 4 different locations. So I'm based in the London Archive Centre, and then we have 3 other archive centres in Hong Kong, Paris and New York. So altogether across the globe, we're responsible for collecting records of historic value, managing them and ensuring their permanent preservation in the archive. So you can see from the couple of statistics I've popped up on screen in our infographic that our records span a huge number of different countries. We hold quite a diverse range of formats in both our physical and our digital collections. And then, as you can imagine, another really important aspect of our work is making our history and our archive collections accessible in lots of diverse ways to different audiences. So this really kind of neatly leads me onto the focus of the talk today, which is an example of one way that we try and achieve this. So on the 9th of November 2018, a new interactive digital war memorial was unveiled at HSBC UK's head office in Birmingham. And this memorial commemorates the lives of Midland Bank, so now HSBC UK employees who lost their lives during the First and the Second World War. So how did the idea to install this kind of memorial come around? For a bit of context, over the course of both conflicts, around 12,200 male and female Midland Bank employees enlisted with the armed forces, and 1,195 members of staff lost their lives in the conflict. So to honour these individuals, 2 memorials were created at the bank's head office, the first in 1921, which is the memorial in the centre of the slides, and another in 1950, which is on the right-hand side. So these war memorials reside at our global headquarters, the HSBC Holdings headquarters in Canary Wharf, and they still continue to be a focus of annual Remembrance Day services at our HQ. But in 2015, it was announced that HSBC's UK subsidiary would transfer to a new home in Birmingham. So as you can imagine, moving these 2 very big war memorials would have been a huge challenge, and they do serve an important focus in London as well. So the archives team came up with an alternative proposal to create an innovative digital facility that would encourage meaningful interaction with the history of the bank and with the experiences of those thousands of employees who had served across the 2 world wars. So the archives team embarked on really extensive planning with lots of different departments in order to design and install an interactive war memorial in time to mark the centenary of the armistice in 2018. So the memorial was really intended to enable quite broad audiences to engage with the war stories of our past employees, whilst all the while strengthening HSBC's continued commitment to commemorate their memory in a really dynamic way. And we really wanted to extend our knowledge of these stories amongst HSBC UK employees in particular. So to help develop our plans, we worked with digital media specialists. So we asked them to create a memorial that was digital and that was interactive, but a memorial that still had all the reverence and all the original meaning of the physical war memorials at Canary Wharf. So these specialists came to the Archive Centre in London, and we talked them through different parts of our collections that were particularly relevant, and they drew inspiration from the original records to inform the design of the memorial, which hopefully you can see on the slides right now. So they took poetic reference from records like photographs of bomb damaged branches, from staff magazines, from lots of other records we pulled out for them. And the memorial's physical structure really tries to make these poetic references very tangible. So the 3 fumed oak pillars represent concepts like shattered lives, like bomb damage, battlefields and graveyards, and then the centre column, which is on the screen, is engraved with some of the military ranks and the job titles of the people who are named on the war memorial. So that's really to remind our current employees that the men and women on the memorial were everyday employees just like themselves who lost their lives during times of conflict. The large screen, which you can see on the first picture, is positioned at the top of the war memorial, and it's got a set of rolling images, statistics and quotes from the archive, which hopefully you'll see rolling on the next slide. So that was really to provide a very poignant insight into the experience of bank employees during times of conflict, but without offering an overwhelming amount of detail. So there's the film rolling to the side. So the smaller screen at the bottom of the war memorial is a touch screen. So this is at an accessible height, and it is meant to encourage visitors to interact with the war memorial and find out a bit more about the UK Bank during the war. So we spent quite a lot of time identifying different archival records which would help to tell the story of Midland employees during the war in a concise but also quite a visually appealing sort of way. And we had so much content available to pick from that it was really difficult to decide exactly which stories to focus on. But after lots of discussion in the team, we decided to tell the stories of women in the bank, the relationship between Midland Bank and how it became HSBC UK, and then the wider story of HSBC and conflicts across the globe. And the intention is that we'll expand into new topics as time rolls on. But vitally, the touchscreen allows users to search through the list of men and women named on the war memorial to learn a little bit more about their lives and to find out information about them, like where they may have worked within the branch network, the regiments that they may have served with, and really good information like that. So the memorial was unveiled at HSBC UK's first Remembrance Day ceremony, and it served as a focus for the service. And at that time when it was unveiled, visitors could read a really small amount of information about each individual on the touchscreen. And lots of this information had been transcribed from records at the Archive Centre. So notably from a set of First World War index cards, which track around 4,000 men who left their branches to enlist in the armed forces, which is a really interesting collection. But unfortunately, we don't have a similar collection for the Second World War, and there was still so much to find out about these men and women from the records in HSBC archives, but of course from archives and libraries all across the UK, from online sources as well. And as you can imagine, to try and gather all this really valuable information ourselves would have been a huge task. So that's why I developed a volunteer programme to encourage our current and our former colleagues to research the lives of people who are named on the war memorial. So at the end of 2018, we had an initial internal call out for volunteers from within the business to come to HSBC London Archive Centre and do a bit of research with us. And we received a really overwhelming number of responses, more than I had anticipated, which was amazing. And it was a real shame we couldn't invite everyone. But the small group of volunteers that we did have came and spent some time with me at the Archive Centre, searching through a collection of staff registers that were created over the course of the Second World War. And from pouring through these records, they discovered a real wealth of information about members of staff who are listed on the war memorial. And this meant that we could add really vital facts about somebody, especially around the date of their death, for example, or their employment with the bank. It also gave the volunteers an opportunity to look at our collection of staff magazines from the 1940s. And these contain a number of different obituaries that were written about fallen employees by their colleagues across the branch network. And there are so many moving tributes in these volumes. It was great that the volunteers were able to spend some time transcribing these, ready to be uploaded to the war memorial as well. So the research that they uncovered by consulting the records in the London Archive Centre really enriched the information that was available on the War Memorial. But obviously beyond HSBC Archives, there's a real wealth of resources, as I said, online and in different archives and libraries across the country. And that will be filled with lots of great information about Midland employees who lost their lives during the war, either as civilians or if they were serving with the forces as well. So to try and build a richer understanding of their lives, I reached out to colleagues again in early 2019, but this time also to members of our Pensioners Association, and we launched a virtual volunteering programme asking them to help us unlock information in records beyond HSBC Archives. So this is still a current volunteering opportunity for our colleagues, and it's really been of particular appeal during the pandemic, whilst a lot of our colleagues have been working from home. So each volunteer who participates receives a guide to researching, a background on the history of the original war memorials located in London, and access to all the data that's currently held on the digital memorial. Just before they get started, they will attend an introductory training session where we teach them how to select someone they're interested in. We set them up with a few tips about how to identify potential sources of information, and it's a chance for them to ask questions as well. And then when they're ready to go, they embark upon their independent research. They often pick people from their local areas or someone they share a name with, so there's some sense of a personal connection as well. And they set about researching, they find missing data from our spreadsheet, and then a very final step is to use all of their findings to write incredibly personal and moving biographies for each individual, and then all of this is regularly uploaded to the War Memorial. So throughout the programme over the last couple of years, the volunteers have been sending really encouraging feedback about their experiences. So some of the volunteers have said that it's been quite humbling and powerful to have been a part of. Equally, they've said that it gives them a chance to do something meaningful to do beyond their daily work, and that taking part in the project has made them feel valued and appreciated as employees. So that's been particularly rewarding to hear about that positive impact of the programme on our colleagues, especially during the pandemic, as some people have flagged to me that this opportunity has been a way for them to support their wellbeing needs whilst they're working from home or working in the branch network, which has been really interesting to hear. Equally, they've sent me lots of good constructive feedback, especially about the kinds of opportunities they'd like to see the archive offering in the future. So that's given us a lot of food for thought as well, which is really helpful. We currently have over 200 colleagues and pensioners who have signed up to take part over the last couple of years in the remote volunteering programme. And they've added some really good quality research to the War Memorial. Some of the volunteers enjoy this kind of a one-off experience, so they will research a handful of names and then they end their participation at that stage. Whereas a smaller group of volunteers have really discovered a passion for researching as a result of this programme, and they've continued over the course of the last couple of years to select names and send me their findings, which have been wonderful. To keep them all motivated and engaged, I send them a regular newsletter asking them to share their experiences, and we exchange research tips and give updates on progress, and it's a chance to share some stories from the archives as well. Before the pandemic, we were hosting monthly volunteer open days at the Archive Centre, so that current or new volunteers could come along, they could get together and share their experiences and do some volunteering on site as a group. Of course, all of this ended with the pandemic, but with all of this remote working, lots of colleagues have been quite keen to get involved because it's an opportunity that can easily be done remotely. Some have been in touch virtually with each other to share tips and experiences. They've started working in little pairs or sometimes within a team in a particular department. So that's been really refreshing to see that sort of volunteer community forming, and that's something that we're quite keen to look into and develop and encourage further as well. So yeah, it's been real privilege to lead on this really unique project. All of the hard work of our volunteers combined with the innovative use of technology has really meant that we've been able to facilitate a very dynamic act of remembrance, which has been important, and interweaving those elements of a traditional physical war memorial with those digital features. We feel it's really increased our access or increased the access to an important element of our archive collection. So as well as serving as a focus for annual Remembrance Day activities in Birmingham, we continue to run the remote volunteer programme, and when the building is open, when it's not the time of a pandemic. The memorial is part of interactive school visits, things like employee inductions and formal tours of the building, and part of the our own heritage tours that we lead up in our Birmingham head office as well. So hopefully through the War Memorial we are reaching much wider internal and external audiences, and it's a great opportunity for us to promote awareness of our history as well. So I believe there's time for questions later on. So yeah, thank you, and I'll hand back to you, Mike.
Helen, great. Thanks very much for that. And I can honestly say there was no collaboration beforehand when I highlighted some of the work that Business Archives have been doing during the pandemic to sort of help the well-being and the sort of issues people have got working from home. So the fact that Helen then promptly highlighted a project that has been explicitly helping colleagues at HSBC in such situation was entirely coincidental, but very fortuitous. Okay, so I think now we've got, oh, well, hang on, I'm just applauding here. Thanks very much, Helen.